There are many towns in Bannerlord, especially following the War Sales update. It can be difficult knowing which ones to take as your fiefs in a campaign. So that is why I have compiled my 10 favourite towns to get. I've based this off of 3 criteria, being prosperity, geography, and defensibility. Starting with Diathma of the Northern Empire, which has good prosperity. So the geography of Diathma is pretty good. It has this sea access, and I find this sea to be quite calm usually, unless of course you're at war with, Sturgia or whoever owns this. I mean, that could be a problem. But I think that it's set in kind of the heartland of the Northern Empire, so the prosperity of Diathma is probably going to be maintained before you take the city, so I think it'll be pretty good in that respect. It's got nice defenses with these castles. Epicrotea kind of acts as like a bit of a shield as well. So unless of course any sort of naval invasion, which I doubt because of kind of the way this terrain is, I think that Diathma is in a pretty secure position. So Diathma is one of my favourite castles in the game for defensibility, mostly because of this double gate kill box setup. I mean, it can be absolutely elite if used correctly. My main premise with defending in Diathma is if you get rid of the siege towers and then force the enemy through this first gate into this kind of kill zone. I mean, if you've got the archers set up, you have those fire pots there you can throw down on them. I mean, I think this is one of the most defensible castles in the game. I'm a really big fan of Diathma. This is probably what made it me put it on the list, is mostly because of how it's set up like this. It has these really nice high walls around where I'm talking about, this kind of kill zone. So I'd say if you've got, tier 5, even tier 6 battalion archers, whatever, I think this castle quickly becomes insanely defendable. It's not the prosperity that carries this castle for me, it's how nicely defendable it is. Next up is Hvalvik of the Nords, which has okay prosperity. So Hvalvik obviously has the most interesting geography, being that it is on the island of the mainland. And what I think this means for Hvalvik is you want to make this your first town in your kingdom, because you want to be present on this island as much as possible when it's your kind of only town or you have a low number. Because obviously if you're anywhere else on the map, it's going to be very hard to get here quickly. And I think one of the key strengths of Hvalvik is that an enemy has to come by sea. So you could intercept your enemy out of sea, and it's a lot easier to kill huge amounts of troops out on the water than it's going to be if they manage to get on the land. So I find Hvalvik pretty good in that geography sense. Obviously, it's the port that helps. You want to make sure you have Hargard's castle, because you can't have a natural place to fall back to and regroup should you lose Hvalvik in case you didn't get back in time or whatever. But I think that Hvalvik is kind of the most interesting one geography-wise, and I would definitely recommend giving kind of a Baneland kingdom a go. So defensibility is definitely not Hvalvik's strong point. It doesn't really follow the similar trends of other Nord castles, and it's just a really dull, dull defense. The walls are super low, and they're super straight. There's not many great angles for archers. I do not think that this town is very defensible, which is a big problem for what I was saying about kind of taking this as your first fief. So I think the key thing to know about Hvalvik is you definitely could lose it if a huge army shows up. These defenses, I'm not sure if you're a good player, whatever, but these defenses aren't great. So, whilst you might protect it, and that's kind of why I was saying you'd want to go out and catch your enemies at sea, because these walls and these defenses are pretty lackluster. Then it's Vostrum of the Southern Empire, which is very good prosperity. So as Vostrum is very prosperous, the kind of main thing about its geography is the fact that I think it can maintain that prosperity, because even in a situation where, let's say, Southern Empire is at war with the Aserai is got to get, they have got to get through, a castle, a town, and another castle before they get to Vostrum. I mean, obviously they could do a naval attack, but I don't think the AI is going to do that in this situation. I think it's much more likely to go this way around, leaving Vostrum much more protected. It's got these lovely cliffs behind it that are going to protect it. And I think its geography is pretty good. Obviously, access to the Southern Sea. So if you're not at war with the Aserai, you're going to get great trade routes with them. Great, like, prosperity. So I'm putting Vostrum as really good for geography. Defensibility is not the reason that I put Vostrum on this list. I mean, in my opinion, it's kind of just a bit bland in terms of defensibility. I mean, the walls are really low. There's, one layer, of defense. It's mostly the prosperity, and kind of, maybe it's geography, but defensibility is definitely the weaker point of this city. So I'd say you probably wouldn't want to gamble on Vostrum as kind of your first town. I think it's really definitely a good town to get later on, but maybe it's more of once you're an established, faction, you could risk losing it. I don't think you want to be holding out any crazy stands against huge armies here, as this kind of one wall isn't really it. I mean, especially compared to other castles on this list. This is definitely one of the trading towns, not going to be one of your fortress last stand towns. Now on to Marunath of the Battanians, which is very good prosperity. So for Marunath, it has a lot of natural defenses, obviously with these kind of mountains here. They have, very set routes that enemies could come from. It's got support from this castle, these towns. So if you, and it has really high prosperity. So again, you're wanting to protect that high prosperity. If you kind of own this region, Battanian, whatever. I mean, I know again, you're probably going to take this off of them. But I think this is a really nice defensible town, and you can protect its high prosperity. And, users got the 4 villages. It has a lot of villages kind of that can be like shields for your villages. So you can know when enemies are coming, whatever. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have port access. That brings it down, that brings it down a little bit. But I'd still say Marunath has good geography. So Marunath has some pretty decent defenses. I think I quite like the way the walls wrap around the gate to provide that overlapping crossfire. I think that the walls, maybe they're a little bit low in some places, but they're, definitely not as low as other towns. They have these nice towers that can be used. I mean, it feels maybe slightly long. I would think that maybe you could lose control of the walls should you let, a siege tower on along with the battering ram, maybe. I mean, the siege tower locations aren't too bad, but they're probably, again, what you want to be taking out and focusing as many units through that main gate as possible. So, yeah, it's kind of like, it's a decent town. I mean, obviously, I don't think it's the best Battanian town for defensibility. I mean, considering I chose this town mostly because of its prosperity, it's kind of an outlier for Battania. But I think that its kind of overall design and wall layout is pretty decent. Next is Epicrotea of the Northern Empire, which has very good prosperity. I would say geography is Epicrotea's weakest point. It's pretty much on the front line, so whoever Northern Empire is at war with, be it Sturgia or Battania, this is going to be one of the main targets, so its prosperity will probably take a hit. Luckily, it's, like, super prosperous, but its prosperity will take a hit. So I would say Epicrotea's geography is kind of meh, and these bridges don't help. I mean, I know these rivers don't do anything, but the proximity of the bridges makes it very easy for invading armies to get here. And, this castle feels like it's weirdly set back, so I feel like Sturgia is kind of guaranteed to attack Epicrotea first. So, whilst that's amazing prosperity, its geography isn't quite as good. Okay, so my opinion on Epicrotea is that it sits kind of between Diathma and Vostrum in terms of defensibility. I think it's quite nice the way the walls are set out, with their kind of varied levels, the existence of that tower kind of over there, great place for archers, and the choke point on that bridge. I think it's definitely, because my problem with Vostrum was that the walls were very flat, whereas this has much more variety and much more kind of places for archers to really show off. So I'd say, especially because of Epicrotea's slightly more exposed position on the map, I think these defenses are really essential. I mean, I kind of chose this town again for the prosperity, but I think that it's definitely not lacking in defenses that much. I mean, like, these towers are very high, and you can definitely get a really, great kill ratio and hold out against larger armies here. So Epicrotea wouldn't be a bad pick for, a kingdom when you're feeling you're at threat of being attacked. I quite like these defenses. If you are enjoying this Best Towns in Bannerlord video, please consider liking and subscribing for future Bannerlord guides and strategy game content. I also want to say thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. The growth on this channel has been absolutely amazing, and thank you so much to everybody who subscribed. Also, if you'd like to discuss anything talked about in this video, or you'd like to help me out with future videos, please consider joining the Discord server. The link will be in the description as always. Now on to Hargard of the Nords, which has good prosperity. Geography is definitely Hargard's strongest point. It's set so far back and to the side, like it's so far away from any other town. It has very good natural defenses as well, and also the placement of the castles is really perfect for shutting down most ways into Hargard. I mean, you still have the river. The river's good. I mean, it provides Hargard the port access, but the river, I mean, it takes so long to get to Hargard from either of the two seas that you'll know who's coming. And the other good thing is the placement of its villages. These two are quite set back. I mean, they're not going to get raided. So I think prosperity of Hargard is kind of guaranteed to be kept quite stable. And I'd say it'd be a great fief for you to have if you were kind of wanting, if you were a smaller kingdom and you needed some good defense. Guard has some pretty good defense ability as their walls are really high, and so they really can have great angles for archers, and they have these kind of raised platforms as well, which are really going to be helpful. Their walls are kind of like also multi-layered a bit, which is really cool. And so I think Hargard's defensibility is going to be very decent in a campaign. Maybe this could be one of the towns, that could be like your first fief. If you're worried about getting attacked a lot, this kind of wall setup is going to be very helpful. And this channel right here is going to be really great for throwing things on any troops that are trying to get through the gate. Next is Ocs Hall of Valandia, which has good prosperity. Geography is also one of Ocs Hall's strongest points. They have amazing natural defense from this side against Britannia because of these mountains. And again, they've got really nicely placed castles to help defend routes into Ocs Hall. So I think that it's positioning kind of the heartland of Valandia makes it really secure because it's not on the coast. So, you're not going to get raided by sea. And there's other, you're definitely kind of guaranteed to see, enemy armies coming. And they're going to be sieging other castles, other towns before they reach Ocs Hall. So, I was looking at all the Valandian towns and I was kind of thinking, I was thinking of putting Saga on the list, but it's just too much of a frontline town. And again, you think like Pravend. I mean, the port access is good, but they then can be besieged by the sea. So I was thinking Ocs Hall sits in a really nice position. Surrounded by the forest again. It's just going to be quite good. The villages aren't quite, as safe as, Hargard we were just talking about, but I think geography is a really good strong point for Ocs Hall. The defensibility of Ocs Hall is okay. I do find the walls a little bit one-dimensional. However, it does have quite nice high walls with these towers that do extend quite far along, so I feel like a breach at some point on the wall isn't going to be as much of an issue. I mean, it has, it's not it's not as one-dimensional as other towns, but I find that maybe Valandian castles, I just don't really like them that much for defense. I mean, I mostly choose Ocs Hall because of, its geography, and it's probably not the best defensibility of a castle in Valandia. So I'd say that it's kind of like, it's decent defensibility. It's not its best part. I mean, it has all of, the essentials, and it's going to be decent for, you know, crossbows, archers. Now on to Ortysia of the Western Empire, which is very good prosperity. So geography isn't Ortysia's best point. I mean, obviously that's its prosperity. It feels in a bit of a strange position. I mean, it is protected by these castles from invasion from Valandia, but some of its castles, like, around it feel really useless. Like, this feels like a really strange place for a castle. And down here as well. They aren't really helping to defend. I mean, I guess you got natural protection, but, you know, their geography is kind of mid. They have the port access, which obviously is good, but it does feel a little bit exposed, perhaps, to the Aserai. Should they take this castle? Oh. Well, no, I mean, again, I feel like this castle's a little bit useless. I was going to say, well, I think that, you know, I forgot this wasn't a land bridge. So, no, I still don't really see the point in this castle. If somebody knows what the point of that castle is, tell me in the comments. Like, do the Aserai tend to go for it first? I don't know. It just feels like Aserai going to attack Ortysia pretty quickly. I think Ortysia's defensibility is decent. I quite like the setup with these walls on the sides extending out further, allowing for your archers to get, like, really good damage on any troops using a battering ram. I think the walls might be a little bit low in some places, but I think that its defense is definitely decent. Like, it's, as far as, you know, Empire cities go, it's not as exposed as, like, Vostrum. It has this kind of area here which could be used as kind of like a kill box with these kind of pretty nicely positioned, like, kind of siege defense weapons. I mean, these two towers on each side, maybe a little bit far away from the action, but they could be good against, like, siege towers or any, like, ladder troops. I know the AI likes to do that, so I'm probably saying that Ortysia's defense is decent, not, like, on the level of Diathma, but kind of on the level of Epicrotea. But, you know, I think the defense is definitely decent on Ortysia. Now for Sanala of the Aserai, which is very good prosperity. So Sanala's geography is okay. I mean, they have the port access, again, good. They have this castle, which I think is very helpful should Kuyaz fall. I think that Sanala has that, you know, obviously that's the access, it's only important. It's a trade hub, it needs that prosperity. And, you know, it's the capital. I think that the fact that the castles are a little bit set back could be an issue. I mean, say Sanala was, like, here, had the river access, and then had this castle, like, up here. That would make it a lot stronger, I think. But I still think it's a decent geographical position. I don't think any army's not going to go through at least these two castles. Or, you know, obviously they wouldn't come... If they're coming from this side, it's not an issue. So Sanala's in a decent geographical position. Not the best, but it's okay. Sanala's defensibility is okay. I'm never really a fan of towns that have the gate over to one side. Like, I think the gate should always kind of be in the middle, because it just helps with your kind of archers getting better crossfire against any troops. Because usually, you know, you can destroy siege towers very quickly. The battering ram less so, so more troops are going to approach from that direction. So I think it's more important to have the kind of your gate in the middle with your walls wrapping around. I think Sanala suffers a bit from a lack of fire. I mean, yes, this wall could have archers firing, but again, I chose Sanala mostly because of prosperity reasons. The walls are, like, a little bit low. I don't think it's, you know, the best Aserai. It's not the best Aserai town for defensibility, but it's got enough. Like, it's got the towers and everything. So, you know, it is going to be, like, it is defendable, but kind of like I was saying with Vostrum, I wouldn't say this town you're going to be pulling off any crazy, you know, defenses against huge armies. Finally, Thronderlag of the Nords, which is good prosperity. Thronderlag has decent geography. It's got the port access to this sea. You know, not the best sea to have access to. I find it a little bit painful to get across it sometimes, but, you know, it's okay. It's got decent natural protection, you know, pretty defined routes. It does lack, like, this castle I feel like is more useful for Hargard, but obviously they would take this castle before making a march to Thronderlag, so it is helpful. It does have the many villages, which is good. So I'd say Thronderlag's geography isn't its best feature, but it's decent enough to keep it in kind of what I would think is a really good city to have. And I think the fact that it's set back, I mean, I was thinking, this town is, so far away. At least you kind of have this more enclosed bit from, like, you can get to Balgard easily. Like, on my last campaign, the Nords owned Balgard as well, so that was kind of a nice link to have. Thronderlag's defenses are very similar to Hargard, with the huge, like, walls and really large gatehouse that's going to provide very good archer fire. It's probably not quite as good as Hargard's because it kind of lacks the kill box around the gate that I was speaking about with Hargard, but it does have these nice towers. I mean, you could say the walls are, like, a bit too long, and maybe you could risk losing out to, a party if they're able to get kind of close. But I think that most of the Nord cities have a very nice defensibility. So I'd say that it's not quite as good as Hargard, but for any Nord city, and it is kind of the capital, so it does have good defenses. Okay, so that was the 10 best towns in Bannerlord. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments. If there's any towns you think that I missed or any that you disagree with, please let me know. I'm always trying to improve my knowledge of the game. Make sure to like and subscribe and join the Discord server if you want to help with future videos. Apart from that, that is it from me. Goodbye and thanks for watching.